Should. Yeah.
See you again.
How you doing?
Good, how about you?
Good. Grab one.
Yes, surgery. Surgery. Up in Wisconsin. Exactly.
Sinus surgery in Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's supposed to be back, but he left yesterday after the first surgery. They put him back or something. So
Oh my
he had to go
gosh.
back last night.
Okay, well, I've had sinus surgery. It is so painful.
That's what I've heard. So it's not fun for him.
We knew he was like away.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good to start with the review. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the order of the official Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Wednesday, December the 18th, 2024. I'd ask you to please rise if you're able and join me in saluting the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mr. Ferrucci
Here.
and Mr. Grinslade is absent. Mr. Sylvie,
Here.
Mr. Stevenson,
Here.
and Mr. Lannon, are you on the line with us? Not yet, but we do have quorum.
So folks, we have quorum. Mr. Lannon will likely join us. If he doesn't join us and you stand before us, in order for your petition to pass, it has to be unanimous. Okay? So if you choose to wait until we have more members present next month, you're able to continue it. Just let me know that. Let us know that when you step to the vote. Okay? So our first order of business tonight is approval of the previous minutes from November 20th, 2024. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. I'll abstain, I wasn't here. So, but I believe the minutes. He's so moved in. With that, I'll start the public hearings. Our first public hearing is case VA 24-16. The petitioner is Karen Dodge. The request is consideration of a development standard variance from section 6.17.6.e, ground signs located on lots with non-residential uses to allow digital changeable copy on 2 monument signs in section 6.17.7e, awning and canopy signs to allow digital changeable copy on the fuel station canopy. The address is 11601 Allisonville Road in Fishers. I think this has been continued a few times.
Yes, sir.
Ross?
I don't believe the petitioner is here. Karen, are you in the audience?
Karen Dodge, anyone here for VA 24-16?
With that, staff is happy to present our presentation.
Please.
So thank you, Ross Hillary, Director of Planning and Zoning. Before you is VA 24-16, which was most recently continued 2 months ago. This project is located at the intersection of 116th and Allisonville. It is a Max convenience store, which is a fuel station. The property is zoned C3 commercial as part of the regional mixed use portion of the comprehensive plan. As you mentioned, this is a consideration of development standards variance from our ground sign. as well to allow for digital copy on those monument signs, as well as allowing digital copy on a canopy. And I'll show that further in the site plan. As most people are aware, there are future intersection improvements at Allisonville and 116, which required a taking of the land adjacent to this fuel station. You can see here the area that is hashed is the area that was required for intersection improvements. This does modify the ingress and egress to this fuel station, and the pylon sign that is currently there is located within that proposed right-of-way. The site plan also shows the location of 2 of the monument signs, as well as the location of the signs on the canopy, which I will show again. In their sign package, the existing pylon sign is shown on the left, and they are proposing 2 monument signs, which they are allowed to do. What they are seeking a variance from is to allow that digital copy. So you can see on the pylon sign, those are numbers that you would change by a staff person, and they are requesting them to be digital. The other variance that they're requesting is to allow changeable copy on the canopy. There are 2 locations that they're requesting, one along Allisonville and one along 116, which is shown in those red arrows. Part of our sign standards is to see what those would look like at night. Here is a night illumination view showing the area that would allow for light transfer through. At this time and throughout the entire time that this was continued, we did not receive any public comments. We are currently in litigation with this client for right-of-way improvements. And so at this time, staff does recommend denial to the Board of Zoning Appeals. If you do wish to approve this petition, we request that the approval letter in all related documents are recorded with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office. We've also reviewed the Unified Development Ordinance. If the petitioner wishes to resubmit a variance request, they can do so after 6 months from this denial, unless the request is substantially different at the discretion of the director. Happy to answer any questions.
I do. So you said we're in litigation, the city's in litigation with the petitioner,
That is correct.
not the petitioner, but the party the petitioner represents.
Yes.
And you mentioned that the petitioner can resubmit after 6 months on what condition? Did you repeat that again for us?
Absolutely. So they can submit this exact same variance request after 6 months. If they wish to do so sooner than 6 months, the variance request has to be substantially different
Okay,
than what.
that's what I meant. So if they choose, if we end up denying this tonight, they could wait 6 months and resubmit.
That is correct.
Anything else? Any questions for the city? At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. If anyone is here from the public to speak to this petition, please approach the podium. Being nobody, I'm going to close the public hearing and see if staff has any recommendation. Excuse me, if the board has any recommendation or additional questions.
No additional
No
questions.
questions. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we deny petition for VA 24-16.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
We have a second, yes.
Secretary?
Mr. Sylvie,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
and Mr. Carucci.
Yes. The petition is denied at this time. Our next order of business. Is case VA 24-24. It's a request for approval of a land use variance from sections 4.2.3 I-69 overlay, Interstate 69 overlay district of cities in the overlay district of the city's Unified Development Ordinance to allow an institutional use. The petitioner is Andrew Horton on behalf of Al Huda Foundation. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Thank you. Al Huda Foundation, Inc. Property address is 12115 Visionary Way, Fishers, Indiana. Mr. Horton?
think he's present, but we have other applicant representatives present.
Okay. Are you gonna present at this time then?
Yep.
Go ahead.
We'll start with the staff presentation. As you said, this is a land use variance. 24-24 for 12115 Missionary Way. Evan Martin with the city's planning department. Here's an overview of the petition. Again, this is for the El Huda Foundation, which also operates the Amman schools. The zoning for this site is Technology Center. The comprehensive plan designates it as Flex Employment Center for research and development. And as I said, specifically, the site is located at 12115 Visionary Way, which is just south of the Launch Fishers building, which is just off the picture there. And the current property is approximately 8.2 acres in size and is improved with an existing office building, which is approximately 80,000 square feet in floor space. Again, the zoning for the property here, you can see the zoning is TC, which is Technology Center, and it's one of the classifications within the nickel plate district. And you can also see the surrounding property zoning. You can see that to the north, to the west, and to the south, all of those properties are also zoned Technology Center. Over to the east, there's a PUD, a residential PUD for Sun Lake Apartments. And along the western side of the site, you can see the proximity to the Nickel Plate Trail. And then on the other side of the Nickel Plate Trail, some properties designated as R5, higher density residential, and then also DC there in the green, which is the downtown core designation. And then it's important to note here the hash mark. It's a little hard to see, but the hash mark that is applied basically east of the Nickel Plate Trail is the I-69 overlay district. And the overlay district namely does not allow for institutional uses or other uses that are tax exempt, including educational uses. So therefore arises the need for the land use variance to establish a school use at this property. The comprehensive plan designates the site as Flex Employment Center, R&D, which highlights a number of uses that are intended for this area, including research and development, but also flex industrial uses, employment nodes. It prioritizes a campus feeling in design, and it also encourages adaptive reuse of existing properties. Again, the land use variance is to establish the institutional use within the Interstate 69 district. This proposal does include an adaptive reuse of an existing building, which you can see there pictured. And the plan, the proposed plan is to consolidate the Amman school operations, which currently operate in numerous locations throughout the city, to consolidate those operations within this building as it gradually occupies the building. And I'll walk you through the different phases of their proposed operations. And eventually the plan is to occupy the entire building and also build an expansion to the north. Here are some of the phases of the development. You'll see how the footprint of the operations of the school expand into the building, and the traffic circulation plan responds to the foreseen traffic impact that the use will create. The El Huda Foundation and Amman School have been working closely with both the planning and engineering departments at the city to come up with this traffic circulation plan and to ensure that the traffic will be as efficient as it can be, both for drop off and pickup throughout the different phases. So here you see the first phase, and you can see for the first phase of the school operations, they will occupy the southern portion of the building, which is colored in red. And the drop off and pickup will happen on the western side of the building. And cars will queue within the existing parking lot and then exit north and around the building back onto Technology Lane. This is an alternative traffic pattern included here if there are any issues that arise with the first iteration of the traffic pattern, then this is the pattern that the city worked with the applicant to accommodate for additional cars. So this stacking allows for up to 100 cars as opposed to the 30 cars that would be allowed on the first iteration of the circulation plan. Furthermore, as the school occupies more space, you can see phase 2 is shaded in green and phase 3 is shaded in blue. Those drop off and pickup queuing and stacking will happen on the north and east side of the building. In phase 4, you can see the proposed expansion of the building. They're on the northwest side of the existing building. And then also the traffic circulation pattern proposed for that case as well. Additionally, the engineering department has recommended that traffic be directed to both enter and exit the site from Commercial Way, going right onto Technology Lane from Technology Way, which is this small sliver here, turning right onto Technology Drive, and then as they're exiting the school, also turning right onto Technology Drive, excuse me. So that those left turn conflicts are minimized and traffic can more efficiently access and leave the site. So as I said, they've worked with both planning department and engineering department to come up with this traffic circulation pattern. And so beyond the standard condition that we applied to the variances, staff is recommending approval with the following conditions here listed. All of these conditions have arisen from that traffic circulation pattern and are just to safeguard the operations moving forward as the school expands to maintain an efficient ingress and egress for those to drop off and pick up. I would say the Imam School has accepted all of these conditions and they've been working with us to really reduce the impact that the traffic will have on the adjacent roadways. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions if you have any questions for me. And I'll also point out that we have Tim Mackey with the engineering department here. If you have any traffic specific questions for him.
Members of the board, questions? Just for confirmation, I think you shared it in your presentation. I believe the engineering department is okay with the traffic circulation pattern that is proposed.
Do I need to stand up there?
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we've discussed this with our traffic consultant and we've looked at ways to minimize the impact to Technology Drive and to also commercial on 116th Street. We've worked with the Imam School on the timelines and the schedules and they were very flexible with us. And as Kevin pointed out, the circulations and the stackings internal to their site takes the traffic away from Technology Drive, which allows other patrons of that whole industrial park to operate normal. Obviously, when it does go into operation, we'll work with them if we see any other items that arise. There was one other item that we were going to switch the stop signs on Technology Way. Instead of having the entry, having a stop sign and it's free flow on Technology Drive, it would be a free flow internally, and then a stop sign on Technology Drive. That would help the entry being more smooth, and then it would just funnel them and create gaps for people coming out on Commercial Drive, so not to exacerbate the problem that we have on Commercial on the AM rush hour.
So the entry, what kind of forces the traffic pattern is the entry at the property because of its angle to the east, or it's open to the east, is that right?
Which areas?
So you follow the red
Yes.
traffic pattern.
Yeah.
What would actually drive the traffic?
So we
that
would
direction?
work with the Imam School to put some signage out there. We would also work with them to give out some pamphlets and some directions to the parents of the students that this is the ideal way. Obviously, there will be some people that do take left turns, if we see that the left turns here on the entryways create a conflict with the people turning left, turning right, and there's a lot of backups, we'll work with the Amman School to figure out a way whether there's going to be a cop present to allow for them to follow through, or just make another attempt to educate and work with the students' parents that they would continuously take that right turn and not create more conflicts.
Thank you.
We've noticed that in situations like this, right turns are the fastest and safer way to access the site. And luckily, this is pretty much a circle. So rights all the way through would take you to the same place.
If we're inclined to approve this with the conditions, specifically with the traffic conditions you cite, but you find out later that the Amman School we need to tweak the conditions for traffic, how will we account for that later?
I can answer part of that. If we go back to those conditions, you can see some of those conditions are built specifically for the scenario. If traffic issues arise, then there's mechanisms within those conditions of approval to work with the Amman School to improve the traffic issues essentially.
That's number 4 there, Kevin.
I'm sorry?
Number 4 of the conditions.
Number 4 is one of them, and I didn't point out before, but number 7 was not included within your staff report and was something that came out of collaboration between the engineering department again and also the applicant. So, and it's up on the screen. I apologize, but I can read it out loud. It essentially says it requires that condition where all of the drop off and pickup traffic is to go right onto Technology Drive and or into the site, off of the site, back turning right onto Technology Drive. And it does have some language in there specifically talking about if traffic issues that are not foreseen today are to happen in the future, then, police could be required. The city could require them to essentially have a police officer out there directing traffic in that direction.
We don't know what it's going to be like, but we want to make sure we carve out that exception if we need to.
And we see a lot in the city of Fishers. There's a lot of police officers that do work with all of the other schools around the city that dictate traffic in and out of a lot of the schools, especially like the high school over there on Fishers High School, also on Oleo and other schools all around the city.
Thank you. Members of the board, any more questions for staff? Okay. This time I open the public hearing. If anyone is here from the public has to speak to this petition, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and proceed.
Thank you, members of the board. Mindy Westrick with Bakery Drinker, representing the petitioner here tonight. I have Mark Leach, a land use planner with my office here with me as well. And we're also joined by Schmidt Associates, Amman Schools, and Al Huda Foundation as well. So they're really excited about this project to consolidate. It's a roughly $2 million investment into Fishers. And so we thank you for your time tonight, and to Kevin and the engineering department for their work on this. We've been working with the mayor and planning staff and engineering on this for quite some time, and have a proposal for a variance in front of you that really is the holistic multiple phase project here tonight. And so we think we've built in kind of all of the scenarios. So as Kevin mentioned, conditions 1 through 6 were things that we agreed to following a letter from a meeting with the mayor and Megan, and a follow-up letter from the engineering department. And so able to agree to those. We were notified this week of the traffic pattern recommendation for condition number 7, and Kevin provided that language to us today, and we can agree to that condition as well. I've talked to my client, and we're going to make sure that the communication to the parents is strong so that they understand that kind of one-way traffic pattern to ease the traffic and not create any sort of congestion there. We want to try to avoid hiring police officers if we can control that traffic and have compliance through proper notification there. Given that staff has recommended approval with those conditions and that we're in agreement with them, I think that will kind of conclude my presentation. We also have, maybe it's on here. The city has also asked us to put together kind of an operations plan. Oh, I think it's. So I just note the operations plan that we submitted as well. We moved the start and pickup times for the school under tab 6 here.
Oh, there's the big.
So this is something that we've submitted to the city and will abide by as we walk through the multiple phases of the construction. The first step, and this is why we're here tonight, and it's really important, is the interior construction. In order to start school in August, we need to be applying for building permits and starting that in January. So that's why we're here for this variance in front of you tonight, in order to kind of stay on that timeline to keep the kids in school when they need to be in school, and keep to that construction plan. And then with the multiple phases, we'll be in front of the nickel plate committee and others, reviewing architecture and any sort of changes to future site plans. But everything at this time is included in this request for the variance to allow the institutional use. So I'm available for any questions, and we've got additional experts here as well. Thank you.
For the record, I'd like to treat council statements as part of petitioner's petition as opposed to public comment, just so we're clear. Thank you very much for that. Any questions for council? Okay, public hearing is still open, so if there's anyone here from the city officials who lives around this and been received the notice or seen the sign and wishes to comment on the project, please raise your hand. Being none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and ask members of the board if there are any additional questions for council or staff before we make a motion.
No additional questions or comments.
You have a motion?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve the petition for case VA 24-24 with the subject to the conditions that are recommended by the staff, numbers 1 through 7.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have roll? Call the roll.
Mr. Sylvie,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
and Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, motion passes. Good luck to you all. Thank you for being so thorough. Appreciate that. Our next order of business is case VA 24-26. Consideration of a development standard variance from sections 5.4.8 D to B of the city's unified development ordinance. Allow a drive up window, exterior menu board, and speakers associated with a restaurant or coffee house within 400 feet of any building zoned or used for residential purposes. Our petitioner is Mark Leach. Mr. Leach, you step forward. Mr. Are you gonna go first? Yep, you're gonna go.
Before we get started, I would just, maybe a point of clarification, just because you guys have 3 members. Is it that if we don't get a full 3 for approval, that it's denied, or do we actually have to get 3 no votes for it to be denied?
If there are 3 no votes, it would be denied because
You've understood, but what if it's a split vote?
if the split vote comes back before us.
It automatically continued. to the
Okay,
next
that's what I
Okay.
thought. I just wanted.
Or you can continue it and come back next month if you'd like to. That's up to you.
I think we're good to go. Okay, we'll go ahead to that. Thank you so much. Well, good evening. My name is Mark Leach. I'm a land use planner at Bigger Drinker with offices at 600 East 96th Street, Suite 600 in Indianapolis. You'll also hear from Mindy Westrick Brown again, counsel from our office later in this presentation. Here with us this evening representing the owner, our longtime successful Hamilton County developer, Rob Worsler, principal at Worsler Realty Group in Fishers, and also Eric Leisner, principal at Civil Secretary at Carmel. We wanted to start off by thanking planning staff, as Christy has been a real pleasure to work with throughout this process. We really appreciate that. Our team is pleased to propose the new, flip through here quick. Our team is pleased to propose the new Bentgrass Marketplace project in the master plan Fishers Marketplace development located near the northeast corner of East 135th Street and State Road 37. This will be located north of the Verizon store and the early learning experience daycare center along Bentgrass Lane, which is a private road. The project is proposed to be a single-story neighborhood shopping center featuring local, regional, and national tenants. It includes an architectural pleasing design with an abundance of landscaping. As shown on the preliminary floor plan here on the screen, approximately 8 tenants would occupy the building, and the northernmost tenant would be a restaurant or a coffee house with a drive-up window and associated exterior menu board and speakers. The project is designed with the parking closest to State Road 37, as you can see here, and the building situated to the east between the parking and Bentgrass Lane. The proposed drive-through lane would be located behind the building. The drive-up window, exterior menu board, and speakers are approximately 280 feet away from the townhomes to the north and approximately 125 feet away from the apartments to the east. To develop the project as proposed, a variance is needed from the UDO to allow these specific drive-through components to be a minimum of 120 feet from buildings that are used for residential purposes, which is a deviation of 280 feet from the UDO, which I will later explain why we believe this is appropriate and meet the findings. I mentioned previously that the project would have an abundance of landscaping. While easements prevent the construction of any type of screening wall on the site for the drive-through components, additional pyramid arborvitae shrubs and additional Blue Point juniper evergreen trees are proposed as screening plantings to be a minimum of 6 feet in height at planting. I'd like to note here that the specific juniper evergreen tree species that is shown in our presentation materials has since been updated to a taller growing species. And that updated plan was submitted to Christy last week, so she's got that in the file. These additional plantings are shown in red here on the screen now. They are over and above the UDO required landscaping. The pyramid arborvitae would have a mature height of 15 to 25 feet, and the Blue Point junipers to be planted east of Bentgrass Lane would have a mature height of 12 feet and a mature width of 8 feet. Regarding the sound generated by the drive-through components, the target end user will generate about 64 decibels, which is considered moderate to quiet, as a normal conversation at 3 feet apart is approximately 60 decibels. With the project building being constructed between the 50 State Road 37 and the apartments to the east of Bentgrass, buffering the traffic, we believe that the noise level experienced after construction will actually be much less than the current conditions. I've Mindy come up to make a brief comment here.
Yeah, staff received, and I'm sure it's in your packet, an email from the apartment complex to the east of this proposed project about the noise from the speaker boards. And so we take input from neighbors seriously. And so we started to do our own research. We don't have a current end user for that restaurant or coffee shop that it would be, but we looked at kind of target restaurants similar to something like a Panera like. And so started researching what the decibels, as Mark mentioned, would be at that speaker board and found a lot of consistent information on the web that is a quiet noise. But then we also knew that we have a lot of examples of similar coffee shops and restaurants here in the central Indiana community. So we took the research that we did online and then we went out and put it into the field. And so we went to, I specifically went to a Panera that's located on Keystone. We chose this specific Panera because it has a lot of similarities to this proposed site. So Keystone is a 4-lane road. This one's just south of 62nd Street in Indianapolis. And so Keystone and State Road 37 operate similarly. The traffic speeds I think are actually higher on 37, probably generating more traffic noise than Keystone. But the restaurant sits back from that busy road in a similar position that this proposed restaurant would sit. And the speaker board is actually similarly situated on the east side of that property. So very almost identical makeup. And so what I did when I went to visit this is we marked off 125 feet. I parked my car in the parking lot. This specific Panera has very minimal landscaping. I was in a parking lot where, if you're familiar with this area, there's a Staples and a former library site there. And listened to multiple, I listened to 3 cars come up, place their orders. From that location, I could only hear the driver of one of the cars placing their order. It was very hard to hear. Felt like you were listening to a whisper. I recorded all 3 of these cars at the speaker. Not one of them could I hear the speaker, the restaurant workers speaking back through that speaker box. I also moved between 125 feet up to that as well, just to see if you get closer, can you hear that speaker box? Wanted to kind of understand what the neighbors in this specific instance would be able to hear. Also, this proposed site, while Bent Grass Lane is, not a very busy drive, there is going to be additional traffic noise that already exists on Bent Grass, which is different than this Panera there, but could not hear the speaker box at that location, and through the traffic noise. The traffic is much louder on Keystone. Also did a site visit tonight as well. And again, traffic noise on 37, very loud. You have some traffic noise on Bent Grass Lane that exists there today with the property north of the lake. Also would note that this proposed restaurant or coffee shop is on the northern part of the property. The apartment building that is directly across from the proposed restaurant and coffee shop sits kind of diagonal in contrast to the apartment buildings that are further south there. So meaning if you were out on your balcony, and we would subject that you won't be able to hear the speaker noise. But even if you were out on your balcony, these balconies actually face the interior of that property, and they do not face towards the west there on Bent Grass Lane. There is some existing landscaping at that apartment complex as well. There are mature evergreen trees there, in addition to the landscaping that we're providing to provide as much protection from the residential units as possible. So I'll let Mark finish his presentation, but happy to answer any questions at the end.
Thank you, Mindy. Overall, we believe that the variance approval will not be injurious to the community, but will provide a positive amenity. We also believe that the use and value of adjacent properties will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because because of the low sound volume that would be generated and the extra landscaping that would be installed to screen the project both audibly and visually. Additionally, we think that in this particular case, the UDO distance requirement causes a real practical difficulty in the use of the property because the property is only about 340 feet wide. So there is absolutely no place where the drive-through components could go that would be 400 feet away from the residential buildings. Total project cost would be an approximately $4.5 million investment in the community. If approved, development and construction would occur in early 2025, and building tenants would be open in late summer 2025. With that, we are happy to answer any questions you may have, and we respectfully request approval of the variance petition. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you both, counsel. Case? Thank you, Kristen.
Christy Cashin, Senior Planner with the City of Fishers Planning Department. Project before you tonight is a request to install a drive-up window, exterior menu board, and speakers associated with a restaurant or coffee house within 400 feet of any building zoned or used for residential. This property is located in the Fishers Marketplace PUD and is regulated by the PUD and the city's UDO. The surrounding area is, as shown here, is zoned PUD-R, to the north, PUD-M, PUD-C to the west, and I-1 to the east. The Fishers 2040 comprehensive plan designates this site as employment node. This designation highlights large office buildings providing regional employment with opportunity to integrate employment serving mixed use. This site shows the approximate, this slide shows the approximate location of the menu boards highlighted in green and the drive-up window highlighted in orange. The image to the right shows the proposed evergreen landscaping that will be added for screening around or near the menu board. The new landscaping shown in this image is colored in black and in red. The yellow is existing. Landscaping shown in red is a row of 8 6-foot-tall pyramid arborvitae that will grow 15 to 25 feet in height at mature height. Those are directly east of the menu board. There's 5 6-foot-tall blue point junipers that will grow to a mature height of 12 feet along the east side of Bentgrass Lane. And there are also 5 6-foot-tall pyramid arborvitaes screening the menu board from on the north side of the property. These are the elevations of the proposed building. The green highlighted areas show the approximate location of the menu board, and the orange highlighted area is the drive-up window. The proposed location of the menu board is approximately 125 feet from the residential units to the east and approximately 305 feet from the residential units to the north. The proposed drive-up window is approximately 167 feet from the residential units to the east and approximately 280 feet from the residential units to the north. These are current images of the site, with the area highlighted being the area of the proposed development. In the image to the left, you can see the residential buildings to the north, and the image to the right, you can see a peak of the residential buildings to the east, the little yellow. We received one public comment regarding this variance. This public comment came from Sue Anthony Fulmer, the Regional Vice President of Regency Windsor Management. She represents the Woods of Britain apartments that are directly east of this location. And she stated that they are not in favor of the proposal and feel the noise pollution could cause serious harm to the quality of life to the residents. Staff has no recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals for this request. Should the board approve the petition, staff recommends that it is done with the following condition, that the approval letter and related documentation recorded on the property with the Hamilton County Recorder.
Thank you, Christie. Members of the board, do you have any questions for staff?
No, I don't.
No. I'd just like to add that the public comment said that the board should not treat apartment complex residents any differently than we would treat permanent residents in, I guess, single family homes. And I can assure her that we do not do that. So I just like that to be clear on the record. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing. If anyone is here from the public to speak to this petition, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and go ahead with your comments.
I'm Matthew Brands, 9446 Ash Lake Lane. I live in the Woods of Britain, the apartment complex just to the east, not in the buildings right next to this, but a different building, but the same complex. So I guess I agree with the landlord. I'm opposed to the variance. I don't think it meets the requirements. First, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected or substantially adverse manner. I think it will be affected. I mean, this is it. The rule is 400 feet and they want 125 feet. That's a huge decrease in the rule distance. And I don't think a few plants can cover that. I guess city council said 400 feet and 125 feet. I mean, I think just at that level, there's no way you could say that it isn't substantially adverse because I mean, if it was just a little bit, I could understand, some plants could cover it, but if 400 is ideal, going down to 125 has to be not good. I'm glad they presented some research on what the actual speaker noise is, but I mean, you're basically right across the street from a residence, and if you approve this variance, it's open season. I mean, the next person who asks for a menu board across the street from a home, they could do the same thing with just a few plants, and at that point, the rule doesn't mean anything. I mean, I think really the argument presented by the petitioners belongs in front of city council and the plan commission to change the zoning ordinance for everyone. Instead of just constantly handing out variances that basically completely ignore the rule. The second one is the strict application of the terms of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties. I just don't see a practical difficulty. It's an empty piece of ground that you can develop however you want. There's they say they need the drive-through where they have it. I didn't hear anything about putting the drive-through on the other side of the building next to the road, and so I just don't buy that. The only place for it is right next to the side facing the apartments. So in that sense, it's not practical difficulty. And then I mean, the parcels just to the south are daycare, cell phone store, and I mean, those aren't drive-throughs. It seems like there's ways to develop a parcel that don't require a drive-through at all. So in that sense, it has to be developed this way, isn't it? Oh, and I wanted to mention, so I know they were saying on the balcony, you probably aren't going to hear anything, but I think the 400-foot rule is meant to include, the house and the yard adjacent to it. I mean, people want to enjoy their yard. And so if you're in the yard next to the apartment buildings, they're going to be even less than 125 feet from the menu board. And then it's even louder. So, I mean, when you decrease the distance like that, it kind of affects things. It's not just the distance to the house, because that measurement's supposed to make sure the whole area of the residential, parcel is, not affected. So.
Chair, just to let you know, it has been 3 minutes. I just want
They haven't satisfied two of the requirements for a variance, in my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Seeing no one else, I'll close the public hearing. Members of the board, do you have any questions for the petitioner or for staff?
No, I don't. No.
No questions? Do we have a motion on this petition BA 24 26?
I would move to deny, PA 2426.
Have a motion to deny. We have a second?
Second.
Have a second.
Mr. Sylvie,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrucci.
No. So I think that petition will come back before us when we have more individuals present. Remainder of the board, I think, should hear it again. And sir, you're welcome to come back, of course, and stay as a member of the public. So that one's denied. Next order of business this evening.
to continue.
I'm sorry. Let me restate that. That will come back before us next month, not denied. Yeah, I apologize. Next, order of business is any old business. Do you have any old business?
No, sir.
Any new business? Staff communication?
Yes, so Outlook invites for 2025 have gone out. Appreciate everyone who has accepted those. If you don't see them, please let Kay or I know. We will reach out again prior to meetings to make sure we have quorum. So appreciate you for responding as well. Meeting times and locations are remaining unchanged. So same place, same time for this room right here. And we do thank you for your service this entire year as we transition to the new building. We wish you guys all a happy holiday.
Thank you. We do as well. We assume that we'll go back in the same role as in January as we are here today.
Yes, unless noted from Carrie, the mayor's administrative assistant, I believe there are no changes to the mayoral appointments.
Thank you. Thank you and happy holidays to the board. And actually, but I'd like to commend the board and commend the secretary and council for all the work that they did this year as well. You make our jobs much easier. You help us through this process to understand what the petitioner's doing. And it's very, very beneficial to us. So you do a very good job. We appreciate you guys very much. Thank you. Happy holidays. Thank you, Kay, for your kindness all the time.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Evening.